On this week's episode, we talk about how to use the Eventbrite app to find things to do in your city. Welcome to the Ask a Matchmaker podcast. I'm your host, Matchmaker Maria, and I am so excited for this week's episode because every single week I get questions about how to go out, and I give you my tips, but I feel like we can give you more tips this week. And therefore, I tapped into the Eventbrite app, and I was like, who is creating things? And I brought going out experts, also known as co-creators of Single Saturdays on Eventbrite, Nick Rosen and Natalie Cramer, to the podcast. Welcome to Ask a Matchmaker.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Maria.
And to visit your website really quick, it's single-saturdays.com.
Yes.
But people can also visit you by downloading the Eventbrite app and looking up Single Saturdays in New York City to learn more about the events that you host on
Saturday
There
afternoons.
you go. That's how we do it.
Yep.
Saturday
Yeah.
afternoons.
Yep. We have an event coming up this weekend. actually.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Yes.
I'm so excited to hear that.
Yeah.
So let's talk about it. First of all, how did you meet each other?
So Nick is a matchmaker.
Yes,
and
I
he
know.
has a free,
We'll talk about that in a second.
He has a free network. And early last year, I decided that I was going to get off the apps for good and try different methods. And I found his offering and I joined, I believe, his meetup group. And I got a message directly from him inviting me to have a one-on-one call. So we did, and we chatted, and I had been brewing some ideas and I shared with him. And we created a connection from there.
That's
Around
great.
events.
Yeah.
Had you hosted events before?
Yes and no. Not singles events. When I'm not doing this, I'm a creativity coach. And so I do a lot of events helping others be free in their creative expression. And I host sorts of events in that realm. But being my own single person in New York City, I was trying different methods of meeting people and wasn't finding and feeling like the things that existed were for me. And that's where my wheels started turning of possibilities of what could exist, what kind of things would interest me and excite me for meeting other singles.
Do you, Nick, we'll let you talk in like a minute.
Okay. Of course, yeah.
But do you feel like when you say like things weren't for me, tell me more about that.
So getting off the apps, it's like the apps are the place to meet people nowadays, or so it's been. And immediately when I went online and started looking for events, most things for singles were speed dating experiences.
Right.
So I went to a couple, and it also took me knowing that I was maybe going to create something to actually get the guts to go, because it wasn't my cup of tea going into it. But I knew, okay, let's see what this is about. If I can't be an automatic no without trying. And so I just found having to sit and make conversation with the same person, even though I know in my gut, like something's not there, just wasn't exciting. And so I started to think about what kind of things do I enjoy? What kind of dates do I enjoy? And a lot of that goes to activities. I enjoy doing things because I find that helps create conversation, create common ground, and just have a natural way of having something that if you don't know what to talk about with someone, you know that you're in something together.
Yeah. Authentically connect.
Yeah.
Yeah. And Nick, you had a meetup group.
I did, yes. It was great because I used it to get people into my network, which was
Right.
awesome. And I also wanted to foster, people who wanted to intentionally date and kind of look for long-term relationships or connections. And so I created one. I don't know if that one exists anymore. I think I renamed it to Intentional Dating or Dating Intentionally because of Natalie.
Right.
Because once she joined my network, we had this whole conversation. I did an intake session. So basically I was getting her. Yeah.
Nick is a matchmaker. We're colleagues.
Yeah.
We actually recently met at YentaCon.
Oh yeah. I mean, you're a legend. So this is like, I was blown away when you were at YentaCon. I was like, no way.
Why wouldn't I be at YentaCon?
No, but it was just so cool. I'm like, oh my God, that's Matchmaker Maria.
It's really weird because I don't ever I don't think about myself in that capacity, especially with other colleagues, because I'm like, I'm just a matchmaker in a room of matchmakers. But that's really nice of you to say that, Nick.
Oh, of course.
And now you're here on the couch on the podcast.
Oh, it's so surreal.
Look at you.
Yeah.
Living the dream.
I'm honored. I'm just so honored. It's amazing. And I also thank you because, we all as matchmakers, we're like so supportive of each other. And
yeah.
afterwards, I just loved, post the first session of YentaCon, all of us getting together at the bar, drinking together.
And that was your first dating conference.
My first one ever. Yeah.
Wow. And like that was just YentaCon.
Yeah.
Are you going to attend? Like, there's 2 more conferences happening. So for any matchmakers listening, if you're listening to this on May 7th, there is a conference happening in New York tomorrow. Are you going to that?
Is it the Global Dating
Yeah,
Insights?
yeah.
Shoot, I've got my ticket.
Oh my God.
I didn't realize it was tomorrow.
So get your tickets for the Global Love Institute conference, but also there's another conference, the big one, in November that takes place in Mexico. And you know what? I'll include a link to that in the show notes, since there's 2 matchmakers on this episode. Like, hey, if you're a matchmaker actually listening to this, or you're interested in this thing, maybe you can come to our conference.
Yeah.
But if there's any room left, because I think we're almost at capacity. I think we only have at the time of recording, I know we only have 20 rooms left.
Wow.
So you got to get both on there, Nick. What
I
the
know.
hell?
I do. This is a conference you put on.
Yeah, I actually put that on for the last 12 years.
See, this is
Isn't that
why you're a
crazy?
legend. Yeah, this is, yeah.
Oh, anyway, but I have other MCs, and I'm the organizer. I'm not the host of it.
Yeah. But
no, I'm really proud of that. Anyway, let's talk about this though. This is really important to me.
Yeah.
So it's funny because I was talking to people at Eventbrite, and I was like, okay, who are the creators I need to know in New York? Because I feel like I'm getting a lot of questions.
Mm-hmm.
I want to record an episode with them. What can we do? And they're like, well, there's this matchmaker that knows you. And I was like, oh God, who? Like, and they're like, Nick. I'm like, oh, I know Nick. I just met him. Sure, we can have him on. Like, he's cool. And so I didn't know that you started with Meetup. And I feel like that's such a, I feel like even me as a matchmaker, I started on Meetup before immediately going to Eventbrite. Mm. Because it's like, people Google things and that's what shows up, I think. Mm. Back then, I'm sure it's different. It might be different now. Yeah. But tell me a little bit more about you're meeting people. You have, you're a connector naturally. Mm-hmm. You're in the creative space, and it looks like you both got your wheelhouses, together.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And what was your first event together?
When Natalie first came to me and we did the intake session and such, the cool part was towards the end, she said, I want to do this intentional dating event, and I want to call it Single Saturdays. So I was like, wow. So that name is amazing. Like, that is SEO, like, incredible. We got to jump on this. And so to her credit, she, made the website. She put out all of the promotional stuff and things like that, organizing the first event, which was in Central Park.
Yeah, we started with 3 events in Central Park. And that was sort of the main idea, to just, let's see if this is even something that people are interested in. The idea was, we'll get people to the park. You naturally hang out with friends on a Saturday afternoon at the park anyway, but now you're just in a group where you know that everyone else is single. And so we started with really this concept of, does it make a difference, and will people be more engaged and willing to put themselves out there, knowing that you're taking out the barrier of having to question who's available to me, and just creating this safe space of, we've got activities, bring your single friends, we're outside, have fun.
Were you getting a permit in Central Park, or were you just like, oh, let's just meet at this corner at the Great Lawn and make it happen?
We didn't get a permit.
Yeah.
I think
secret.
No, it's okay. Listen, everyone's done it. Don't worry.
Yeah, no. I think to start, we didn't really, our numbers, I think our top number, would have been 30 people, and I don't think you really need a permit.
That's a lot of people, though.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know. Maybe you're like, oh, let's meet here, and then it's like you get there, and it's like someone's throwing like a 80-person barbecue, and you're like, oh, let me ping everyone and tell them that we're not meeting here. We're going to meet at Turtle Pond or whatever.
Well, we picked the Great Lawn.
Yeah.
Because we
that's
figured
so
that
big.
was exactly.
Yeah, you'll
Central,
find any corner.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, lots going on already.
What was the ratio like on your first event?
There's a lot more women that sign up right away, and then you have guys that will, purchase tickets
The
week
day
of or
of.
day of. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Forget it.
Yeah. But we had a decent number, actually. I think the first event was really cool. It was close to even. It was close to even. Yeah.
That's great for a first event.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Now you have events all the time. How do you pick the venues?
Our main desire when we're looking for something is, what's the activity?
Oh.
We want to make sure that we're offering something that is not just meeting at a bar, sitting around having conversation, but you're actually taking part in something. This coming event in April is at Randolph's in Dumbo, which has ping pong, or not ping pong.
Feather bowling?
Feather bowling.
What is
that's our big
feather
thing.
bowling?
Looks very cool. I have never experienced it before, but
It's a mix between bowling and
what's a shuffleboard?
Shuffleboard.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is this in Brooklyn?
It's in Brooklyn.
Of course.
They're the
Like,
only ones.
where else would
Yeah.
something like so obscure be? That's great then. Do you feel like people cross boroughs for your events?
Yes and no. Like
Yeah.
we don't have big numbers from Queens at Brooklyn events, but if we do, like in February, we had our best event. We did axe throwing, and we had a lot of mixed boroughs at that event. But it's also something we're aware of. We haven't done an event in Queens yet. And so that's actually what we're looking forward to in May. So we're very aware of what's the activity, where is it located, and making sure that we're balancing so that we can have access to different people.
Are you usually both at the events, or is it one of you? Like, how does it work?
We are both at the events.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it's been great. I think us both being at the events, because for us, connecting with the people that come is so important, and making them feel comfortable in the space. A lot of people, I think, what is the percentage of people that come alone to the?
I would say like 90%.
Yeah.
Most people.
Yeah, 90%. And we do a really, I think we do a really solid job of, speaking to the people that come in, if they are kind of to themselves, incorporating them, introducing them to other people, and really making them feel like comfortable in the space. So, yeah.
Yeah, we really want it to be a community feel. And so it's important to us that we make sure that one of us is at the door, one of us is like there to mingle and help connect people as we're beginning the event. And then it's been challenging. We're still a new company, so we're figuring things out. But one of the things that we also do is I'll lead a little bit of a guided intentional moment to start out, to get people just connected to themselves, taking a deep breath, and then having a moment to get in touch with what had them say yes to being at this event. Then
What does that mean?
What had them say yes?
What do you mean? Like, yeah, what does that mean?
Just taking a moment to think about why did I buy this ticket? Why am I choosing to be here on my Saturday afternoon?
Right.
There's a reason that you're putting money into this. And so I feel like oftentimes when we go to events, it's just, that's what my friends are doing, or that's the thing to do. And I think especially in a space where most people are there on their own, it can be really scary and uncomfortable. So by taking a minute to tune inward, it allows each person to take a minute and ground for a moment, remember what their intention is for being there. And then the secondary part of it is to turn to the person next to them and share that, or share how they're feeling.
Wow.
Just something that really okay, now I'm with myself. Now I know at least one other person in this space.
That's really lovely. That's really lovely.
Yeah.
All right. So let me ask you some of the most popular questions that I receive when it comes to events, right? So first off, it's looking for events. So I have in the past told people, like, when you go on the Eventbrite app, when you download it, it's going to ask you where you live, and you should put the city that you're in, but it also asks you, like, what do you want to do, or like, what are you looking for, right? And I think people might be inclined to actually put single events, right? But my take on this, and I'll give you what I say typically, is like, stop talking about single stuff. Like, if that appears, that's great, but there's other things that are really fun to do that, it's just an opportunity for you to meet people. So for instance, like now that the weather is warmer, why don't you search the word outdoors and see what shows up? Like, I was helping a person who lives in LA look for something to do. And in their city, in LA, there is an event that happens, I think, every couple of weeks, where it's called like foraging. So you basically hike and you forage different types of lettuce. And then at the end of the event, you make a salad with whatever you foraged. But this event is almost always sold out. And then I was just like, think about the kind of person who's going to this, right? They're just trying to learn something new that weekend, right? It doesn't have to be this like, I have to be single, or I just want to go out, and I'm using the app to just go out, right? But maybe you search outdoors and you might hear about, oh, there's a meetup happening, an event happening. Like, people are meeting up single Saturdays in Central Park. Or, from that, maybe you follow that creator and you find out about their axe throwing event or whatever. Like, there's ways to use it to like actually search. So what advice would you give people when they're searching on like not only how to find you, but like how to find things that they want to do intentionally?
I think a lot of it is keeping an open mind. I think that things do exist, but it can be scary and uncomfortable to go to something on your own. And so that's where it's important to know yourself. And if something speaks to you, you never know where, we always say to people, you never know where a connection will lead you. And so I believe it's most important to pursue interests, pursue the things that interest you, because that's what's going to lead you to the right people, the right person, whatever you might be searching for inside of connection and community.
I think also the events, like the event group that's putting on a cool event like the Forging, following them on Eventbrite and then going and kind of seeing where, the next event they're doing and such. I also think the curated lists that are happening on Eventbrite is really cool.
Dude, that's it. That's where it's at right now.
Yeah, that's why I'm very cool that you did that.
Yeah, and now I actually have to open it to other cities. I'm working with them. So if you don't follow me on Eventbrite, you can actually follow Matchmaker Maria. Yeah. And I have a collection. I have a curated list of things. I put some of your events in there as well, so that you can like see like, oh, here's what this person thinks you should go to, instead of you searching. And I did it for New York, and it was such a positive feedback that now like I'm thinking about doing like Boston, LA, San Francisco, Seattle. Like we're trying to add more cities to like the curated list. I just have to find time to do these things. But let's talk about, you talk about people going alone to events. That's been my experience too. My company used to host singles events for 8 years. Now we're just like, maybe once a year we'll do something or like, but I always try to explain, like I try to help people understand, like when you go to an event alone, that's okay. You just said that 90% of people there are alone too. And I always try to remind people, like when you go to an event, almost everyone there is also there alone. So my trick, and I'd love to hear yours too, but my trick is to tell people like, listen, if you go and everyone's dying for someone to talk to them. So if you talk to someone, they're going to just be like, oh, finally, someone's talking to me. And you get to give that feeling to someone. Like that's all if you just remember that, it'll make the event so much smoother. What tips would you give to someone going to an event alone to like have the best first 15 minutes? Because I think that's where it's at. So those first 15 minutes said it all.
I think it's important to have self-care routine around going to an event.
Tell me more about that.
It can be very intimidating to walk into a space and you don't know anyone. So having a practice where maybe you're listening to music and having a little dance party ahead of time, or having a delicious meal, that just doing something ahead of time that puts you in a good mood. That then you walk in that door and you're like, I know I'm a good time. So how can I like share this energy with others kind of thing.
Do you give any icebreakers?
We have prepped icebreakers and have yet to actually use them. Typically what happens is one of us is just around. And so we're there to it's why it's important to both of us, that we're at all of our events. Because we think it makes a difference to have like a human who's really there. And Nick is a really good connector. He'll say, do you know so-and-so? Do you interested in this? I am learning from him how to support in a different way.
I've had some icebreakers at events.
Oh, are there some examples?
Oh my God. Yeah. We used to do events every month for like 8 years. Mm-hmm. And it started off with, oh man, I can't wait to share this because I don't think a lot of people know this.
Oh, this is so cool.
Yeah. Okay. So in 2010, 2009, somewhere there, we used to do this thing called Dinner with Strangers. So it would be for 16 people, 8 men, 8 women. It was a straight event. And we would have it at this one restaurant in the Upper East Side that was willing to accommodate us on a Thursday night. It would have a prefix menu. I wasn't making any money from it. I was just like, okay, this is how much your dinner costs. This is how much you're paying. And it was fun because you already said it's Dinner with Strangers, and we would make it like a seating arrangement. We try to get some information ahead of time so we could sit people appropriately. And then because you're breaking bread, it's a little easier to like talk about things, I think. Like, oh, what am I eating here? Because it was at a Greek restaurant. So there's like a lot of like meze, like a lot of stuff to eat. And I ended up I stopped doing that at some point, not because I didn't like it. Well, one, I wasn't making any money from it because I wasn't charging appropriately for like facilitating this event. A, B, I got tired of having to chase straight men because it's really tough. Like, yes, the men sign up, but they sign up the last day. And you're like, holy God, like, cause you're like, how am I going to accommodate 10 women and one man right now? Like so I just got that feeling. It was like nerve wracking. You know what I'm talking about. I'm not talking to like, and then the third reason why was there was this one guy who would show up sometimes with a sword, or he would always pay in pennies. And you can't like block these people from coming because these are like public events. So it got to the point where like when he'd sign up, I'd be like, oh my God, we just sold out. And then I'd have to have like a secret link, like, and not publicize it. Like it was very tough to like circumvent around. He would give my company like 1-star reviews. But like, no, you know what would happen is you pay with pennies. I'm not going to give someone 6,500 pennies. I would pay it out of my pocket for an event that I wasn't making money off of, you know? So that on its own had its like own deal, you know, icebreaker. Then we moved on to just having, my favorite ones were what I'm about to say is like a trademarked word, like phrase, lock and key. So you can't use those words, just like speed dating and lock and key. I believe they're trademarked by the same exact person. So I named an event Lock and Key and he was like ready to sue me. I didn't know it was trademark. I was like, oh shit, I'm sorry. I thought this was like a theme. I didn't realize that this is like a trademark thing. You can't call your event Lock and Key unless it's by this person. So I was like, well, I just purchased like hundreds of locks and keys, so I can't not make it a lock and key event. So if you don't know what a lock and key event it is, that like men have keys when they come in and women have locks and you try to find your match and like it's just like stupid icebreaker. But you're like, oh, let me check if your key works. Okay, it works, but let's keep talking, you know, like. So I was like, I just spent all this money on these like locks and keys. I should do something. But I can't call it lock and keys. So that was like around when Kanye West came out with the song Love Lockdown. So I was like, that's the name of the event. And it worked. It was like, it was my Valentine's Day event every year for years. Like I think until 2015, I just had the Love Lockdown. My husband proposed at my last one, at the 2015 one. He just like showed up during a winter storm happening in Boston, was like, just proposed to me. And I was like, and we're done here. Like, yeah.
Oh, that's incredible.
Yeah.
So how did the whole like scene how did the whole event just pause for him to do the proposal?
You know, it's like a source of contention in me and my husband and our family, because my husband told one person like, I'm going to propose. Yeah. Can you take a photo of it? And she's like, sure. And then this bitch went to the bathroom. She's not a bitch. She's a friend of mine, but she knows how I feel. Like I always like make fun of her every time it's the anniversary of my proposal. I'm like, and then Maria went to the bathroom and we don't have any evidence of George proposing. I just suddenly had a ring on my finger.
Oh,
yeah.
No photo.
So maybe one day George will propose again.
Yeah.
You know, I'll probably say yes.
Yeah.
Most likely. You know, I mean, I have his kids, and I like them. I like them more than I love them. So I think that matters a lot. So yeah, I would totally say yes again if you proposed again. Uh-huh. But anyway, so yeah, that was it. But around that year, that was when I was like, I need to transition out of this, and that's when I noticed like I got tired of looking for ratios, and I started making them more like Matchmaker Maria's hosting an event, and then we had our election watch party in 2016, where we just invited like, who wants to come to Matchmaker Maria's election watch party? And that was at the 4040 Club in like Jay-Z's private room. So I had that happening, right? And then I've had Eurovision parties. So if you're listening to this on May 7th, on Saturday, there's a Eurovision party happening at Ulysses. I will include the link to that. So there's 2 events happening this Saturday, right? It's my event and your event. Yeah. What time is your event on Saturday?
3.
At 3 p.m.?
Yeah.
Mine's at 1:30. So, you know, if you like European song contests, you're going to come to my event. Oh, wow. And if you want to go to, what's your event happening on May 11th?
Oh, May 11th? Oh, so we haven't announced it yet, but it's going to be, I think,
by then it'll be announced. By the time this episode comes out.
So the big reveal is like City Pickle is going to be the event.
What's City Pickle?
It's a pickleball. The City Pickle's a group. And they have 2 locations, I believe. One's in Central Park and then one's in Long Island City. So we wanted to, rep Queens a little bit and
Yeah.
showcase Queens. So finally, we're doing an event in Queens.
That's awesome.
Yeah. City Pickle.
So listen, if you want to do City Pickle, you're going to go to Nick and Natalie's event on Saturday, May 11th at 3 p.m. And if you want to dress and go to a 70s themed Eurovision party and learn about culture,
Lots of
come at
event
Ulysses Bar
opportunities.
in Stone Street. Just buy your tickets ahead of time, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, same.
Yeah.
Do people know you're a scholar on Eurovision?
Some of my followers do. If they don't know, I'm a Eurovisionologist. I did my master's thesis on the Eurovision Song Contest. Do you even know what Eurovision is?
I do.
Okay. Wow. Cultured.
I have family in Europe.
Oh, hello.
Yeah.
Where?
In Norway. And my sister in
That is a
in
really
Finland.
good Eurovision country.
Yeah.
They come to collect. Norway won with the fiddler.
I don't actually know anything other than I know what it is.
They're really good at Eurovision.
Yeah.
Yeah, you should be proud.
Very proud.
Maybe next year I'll have you guys come to that. That'll be fun.
Yeah.
That'll be your Saturday event
I'm
that week.
definitely
We
in
should
for
have
that.
thought of this ahead of time.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Anyway, so icebreakers I feel like have always been like pretty important, but I kind of love that, Natalie, what you're doing is you're guiding when the event begins, you're actually doing like an intentional thought, and that is an icebreaker in itself.
Yeah. For sure.
Do you feel like you've been meeting people at your events? Can we get personal?
We can get personal. I have made friends
Okay.
at our events. And kind of relates back to what you said a little bit ago about the ratio thing. Even though we are still focused on having equal men and women, we have shifted our language around our events, which is why we call ourselves more of a community now, because friendships are more what's coming out of it, I guess. People are going on dates, and we know that for sure. We don't know how many people are in relationships or what's happening after. But yeah, friendships are definitely, people come to our events and hang out, continue the night together afterwards. So we love that.
I think it's all about community. Totally. I don't think one person can be everything to you. And like the moment you figure that out by making like adult friendships and learning how to connect with people, like the better off you're at.
Yeah.
So let's talk about like how people can be themselves at events. Like, are there any tips you would give to someone on how to have an authentic experience in person?
I think it's about the hosts so much, and that's why I'm like really big on us being just like great hosts, because we really make other people feel so comfortable. It's tough for me to like think about how I would have another person like be themselves or what have you, because I don't know what the answer is. I'd have to talk with them quite a bit and figure them out and things like that. But I know for myself that it would be challenging to go to some of these events. I give these people a lot of credit that come to our events alone. 90% come alone. I give them so much credit. But I think because we're great hosts, we're able to go and kind of welcome them in, make them feel comfortable, and then they keep attending events, which is really cool. So we have, that loyalty. And
Yeah.
stuff, yeah.
We also know we're not going to be for everyone. So that's not our goal either.
That's the most helpful thing you can be.
Yeah.
Is learning like you don't have to be for everyone. I think like, I don't know if Nick experiences this as a matchmaker, but like I had to learn really quickly, like, oh no, I'm not for everyone. Like, it's okay if you don't hire me. Like, I need to work with people who believe that I can do the job and see the value in what I do. I can't, and even not even the job, like the event. Like, it's okay if you don't want to come to my event. There's other things that you can attend, but at least do something. Like, they're not going to just show up at your door, you
Right.
know?
I think that's one of the big things about what we're seeing in the dating world right now is that people want to get off the apps, but they're not willing to do something different.
And that's what Singles Saturdays is offering on Eventbrite to do
Yeah.
something different. So let's talk about that for a second. True or false, do you think people feel incredibly nervous before the event or during the event? And what would you say to someone to like zip that nervousness in the butt to have a great experience at a event meant for you to meet new people?
A lot of people who would normally go to events, or I think go to these events, I think they're brave, but at the same time they have that capability of being social and putting themselves out there. But for Single Saturdays, I would say most people that come in are social. They're social. They want to get to know people. They want to build community. They're kind of feeling isolated and lonely ever since the pandemic and things like that, even though it's a couple years ago, but still,
It's
that
definitely
was
a spillover.
huge spillover because people keep talking to me about it.
What spillover are you seeing from the pandemic as it pertains to people when they're coming to your events?
This is one that came up last week. A lot of people have friends who have left the city because of the pandemic.
So they need new friends.
They need new friends. Yeah.
And at Single Saturdays, that's what we do. We help people create new friendships and create new connections. And we remind them that you never know where those connections will lead. So the more you can stay open-minded and open to possibility of new connection, the more you'll find the right people.
So here's what I recommend, right? Before anyone goes to an event, I always recommend this thing called 3-2-1 prep.
Okay.
So 3 stands for actually, I want you to think of 3 things that made you laugh this week, right? And I actually want you to write them down. So maybe it was like you listened to this funny clip on a YouTube podcast, or you had a funny phone call with your sister, or your mother accidentally sent you the wrong meme meant for your dad. Whatever it was that made you laugh, write those 3 things down. Then I want you to write 2 things down that make you unique or interesting, or whatever hobbies and interests you have. So maybe that's like, I love baking cakes for my friends, or I'm really good at pickleball, or I have this crazy comic book collection that nobody knows about. But like, you know what I mean? Like you have to write 2 things that make you unique, make you interesting, whatever your hobbies are. And then the 1 actually stands for a mantra. So I actually want you to write it out to yourself. So all these things, you're writing them out as you're walking to the event. And that one last mantra is, I am here to meet new people. Everyone is trying. Give them grace. And I think having all that in your mind, like writing it out to yourself, texting it to yourself, it helps you kind of like refocus what you're about to experience. Because I think one of the reasons that people do experience difficulty in connecting when they go to an event is, one, they're alone, right? Like you said, 90% of people going to events, they're going by themselves. So, and they don't realize that there's 90% of people here are by themselves, right? So knowing that people are there trying, they're there to meet new people. And I think where the nervousness comes from sometimes stems from like, what are we going to talk about? You just thought of 3 things that made you laugh this week. Oh my God, as I was walking here, I was just thinking about, like, did you see what, Shakira did on YouTube? Like, whatever it was that made you laugh that week. You didn't see it? I have to show it to you. Pull it up. Like, look at this. Tell me that's not funny. Oh my God, that was so funny. And someone comes in, they're like, oh my God, what are you looking at? Like, you've suddenly created this like conversation bubble where you can connect with people. And I think this is why a lot of people have no problems usually connecting in other social engineered spaces, which is what you are providing, right? Single Saturdays is providing a social engineered space for you to connect with people, right? It's not random. It's not out and about, right? It's kind of like college. We're here to attend a lecture. You're here to play pickleball or whatever the event is, right? But like, because of that space, it's easier for people to connect. Like, I think one of the things that I'm noticing as a person who sets people up for a living, and also, answers a lot of dating questions, is that a lot of, especially straight men, don't know how to talk to women, right? And some of that may have come from the pandemic, but a lot of it is from not being in a lot of places to interact with humans, period, right? If you're working from home, if you're Zooming with people 2-dimensionally, you're not getting that practice in. And I think when you go, instead of going, I'll just meet someone out and about, no, if you go to an event, let's say one of your events at Single Saturdays, you are provided this opportunity with the social design of the event to talk to people without having to feel like, oh my God, if I talk to her, is she going to think I'm a creep? No, I am forced to talk to you because we're here at this event. Like, we're here together to have this experience.
That's why I think is so great with Single Saturdays and Natalie's concept of doing the activities. I think so many guys are like drawn to like axe throwing that we've done, or pickleball that we'll be doing,
right,
or doing oh my God, we had a golf simulator that we did with Brooklyn Greens.
Wow.
Shout out to Brooklyn Greens. They were great.
That's why activities are our thing, because we find that that's what helps create conversation as well. And it kind of takes it off. I mean, you go to an event and you're just, mingling at a bar. It's like, okay, what drink are you getting? You go to an event and there's an activity. You're like, oh, have you ever done feather bowling before? I haven't either, but I heard this, and this about it. And you're automatically swooped into a conversation.
Yeah. Look up a TikTok about it. after this because I'm like, what is feather ball? I'm like still confused. Is there a feather? Is there a ball? I'm picturing bowling.
Yeah.
It looks like that with a feather.
Yeah.
But there's just different rules. But we don't know what those rules are.
Yeah, we'll find
We're going
out.
to learn them soon.
Yeah.
Well, Nick and Natalie, I really appreciate you coming on to the Ask a Matchmaker podcast. Where can people find you? I want you to give them the instructions of how they can find Single Saturdays.
You can follow us on Instagram at @singlesaturdays_NYC. You can visit our website, single-saturdays.com. And
If you're single in the United States, New York City too as well, but in the United States, you can sign up to join my network of singles, which is great. So if you go to www.metbynick.com, that's my matchmaking site. Just want to throw that in there. Yeah.
You can also download the app, Eventbrite,
Oh, yes.
and follow you guys at Single Saturdays in New York City, right?
yes.
Awesome. I really appreciate Nick and Natalie joining me here. Thank you again.
Thank you.
Of course. And thank you for listening to this week's Ask a Matchmaker episode. I loved having Nick and Natalie on. I want you to literally do what we've talked about. I want you to download Eventbrite app. I want you to look up your city, and I want you just to look for things to do. Do not get overwhelmed. Don't get overwhelmed by the time. It says it'll show you all the events happening in the next 6 months. No. Just pick this month. I like to use the filter this month. And I want you to find 3 things that you can do in the city you live in or the closest city near you, even a sister city nearby, and just find 3 things to do in the next 4 weeks. I promise you, you're going to have all these new connections. And if you're in New York, I want you to follow Nick and Natalie at Single Saturdays on the Eventbrite app, or of course on Instagram. I'll include those links in the show notes. Nick, Natalie, thank you again.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks,
And of
Mary.
course, be lovable, but more importantly, be likable. See you next week.